And I'd like to go ahead and get to our first guest, but before I do, please call in if you have a question, if you have a comment, if you just want to, I don't know, tell a story. It doesn't matter. Just call in. Our live number is 831-373-1234. If you do have a story, make sure it's relevant to our conversation. But first guest we got today is Paul Boczkowski. Is that
very good?
That's right. Okay, Paul Boczkowski. That's a very Polish name. Is that Polish background?
Yes, Polish American or American of Polish descent.
Okay, and so I read your bio. I don't have it memorized, but so we'll start. We'll start with first why you agreed to be on the air today, and then we'll go into a little bit of your military history and because you've got some funny stories in there.
Okay. Well, thanks for inviting me to be on your show today. In October, at the end of October of this year, my platoon from Vietnam is having a reunion in Monterey. And it will be 40 years since we all served together. So it's kind of like a 40th anniversary. We weren't connected all of these years. We just recently got reconnected. One of the NCOs in the platoon took it upon himself to find everybody.
Don't tell me he found you by Facebook.
No, this was a few years ago. This is pre-Facebook.
Oh, okay. MySpace then. All right.
I think he knew somebody either in law enforcement or worked for Social Security, and if you could get a name and a Social Security number, he can get a recent mailing address.
So, was he your intelligence officer? I mean, that's pretty clever.
He was one of the NCOs. He was a fire team leader in one of the squads.
Okay, all right.
And he's got a business in Kentucky. He does underground utilities. His name is Richard Lawrence. In Vietnam, he was known as Sergeant Dick. But anyway, Sergeant Dick took it upon himself to find everybody. One day, after 30 plus years of having absolutely no contact with any of the guys that I served with, I get a letter in the mail. And I go, Kentucky? I don't know anybody in Kentucky. And it was like a form letter. It said, Dear blank. And my name was put in there, Paul. Were you in Alpha Company 2nd and 39th Infantry, 9th Infantry Division 68 and 69? If so, we're trying to find you. If you don't want to be found, that's okay, but let us know so we stop looking. So I sent him an email. He called me up. We had a long conversation. He said, I've got a list of all the guys from the platoon with their addresses and email addresses and phone numbers. And I said, well, please send it to me. So he sent it to me, and it was like synapses reconnecting. I called some of the guys. Some of the guys remembered me. Some of the guys didn't remember me. But anyway, it was wonderful to reconnect, and we had a reunion 5 years ago in Springfield, Missouri, to celebrate 35 years. And this year, at the end of October, in Monterey, we're going to have a reunion, and we're also going to have Vietnam War History Day in Monterey on the 27th of October. And I've been working with Tim Thomas at the Maritime Museum. And
yeah, his show's on right after this one. So
yes.
Yeah. My question, I guess, in the front of my mind is why did you guys pick Monterey for the reunion?
Well, I decided to host the reunion. A couple of the guys said, you're next. You have to do the next one. And I thought about it for a couple of years, and I said, yeah, I mean, it's something that I'd like to do. So I informed everybody in the platoon that it was going to be in Monterey. I selected a hotel. That's the official hotel. And then I thought we should have some activities. And one of the activities on Vietnam War History Day is we're going to honor a couple of the guys from the platoon. One guy won the Congressional Medal of Honor, and another guy won the Distinguished Service Cross in a battle in early January of 1969. And what we're going to do is, the guy that won the Congressional Medal of Honor, he earned the medal on the 6th of January 1969, but he was not awarded the medal until 1971 because I guess there's some kind of a long process involved.
Yeah.
So he didn't know he won it, and none of the guys in the platoon knew that he won it, and I just found out about it, like a couple of years ago. And I was kind of flabbergasted. I had not been assigned to the unit yet. The action happened on the 6th of January, and I came in about the 15th of January, about a week later, and I replaced the platoon leader who was killed in that action. So, and he was a very well-liked platoon leader, so I had big shoes to fill.
So, you mentioned a ceremony that's happening in Monterey in
Yes.
October.
Yes, I'd like to thank Sergeant Major David Ford at DLI, who has been helping me put together some activities on that day. We're going to have a color guard and hopefully a platoon to represent 2nd Platoon of 9th Division. And the mayor of Monterey, Chuck De La Sala, has agreed to issue a proclamation welcoming our unit to Monterey. And then we're going to have the reading of the citation of the Congressional Medal of Honor for Don Jenkins and the Distinguished Service Cross for Ed Carnes. And they're both going to be present. They're both going to have the medals pinned on them, this time in front of their peers, in front of the guys that they fought with, the guys that they served with on that 6th of January, 1969.
So I know getting a Congressional Medal of Honor is probably one of the pinnacle points of anybody's life, especially especially most of them are posthumously awarded, things like that. How many do you think go unnoticed, as far as, like in this case, that they don't get the award while they're still with the same unit? I've been on the receiving end of much lower awards, and I got to my next unit before the award caught up to me, and
Yeah.
it was just kind of, it was like, well, thanks for the award. All my buddies didn't get to see me get it, but
Yeah.
what is this? What's everybody? What's the buzz throughout your group? What's everybody thinking about this?
Well, everybody's very excited. Some of the guys, Don came into the unit in October of '68, so he was with the unit for a couple of months, and then after the battle, when he was put in for it, they took him offline. Now, they didn't tell us, or him, why they were taking him offline. He just went back and got a rear area job. They were keeping him safe. They were protecting him so that he could be a living recipient of the Congressional Medal of Honor. And he didn't even know about it. I talked to him about 2 years ago, and he said, this is what happened. He went back to his regular civilian job that he had before he was drafted and went into the Army, which was being a coal miner. And he went back to Kentucky, where he was from, and he was a coal miner. He said, one evening I was sitting in a restaurant in my little town having dinner, and these 2 guys in suits came in, and they produced identification of FBI agents. And they gave me a number in Washington, D.C., and they said, you need to call this number. And he said, thank you very much, I'll call them when I get home. And he said, no, you need to call them right now. So there was a pay phone there, and he went and called them, and that's how he found out he won the Congressional Medal of Honor in 1971. So it was 2 years, over 2 years after he had earned the medal, that he actually was notified that he was going to receive the medal. So by this time, since all the guys in my platoon, I would say 98% of them were draftees, they had all returned to civilian life, and they had all put the Army and the war behind them, and starting with their lives. So almost none of the guys knew about it.
So kind of scattered to the winds, and they didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't have a real. Well, from what you say, they didn't really have a connection that they held over the years, and so this will be the first time a lot of them seen each other again since then. So
well, we did get together in 2004, and a lot of the guys showed up for that. It was very, very gratifying. Don didn't make it, and Ed Carnes didn't make it. So this time they're going to be here, and there may not be as many guys here as there was at the last one, but it's very unusual in the world of military reunions to have reunions at platoon and company level. Most of the reunions are either at brigade or division level, and you go there and you don't know anybody.
Yeah.
At our reunion, you know everybody, because these were the guys that you were with. You know? But since we didn't train as a unit and deploy as a unit and come back as a unit, we were all replacement parts. So some of the guys came in, and we were only there for a couple weeks and were wounded, and we hardly even got to know them.
Yeah.
And they were gone already. And then there were people that had finished their year and they were going back, and guys, who'd been there several months, they got wounded, and they, so we all kind of like, we didn't have that cohesion that I think a group would have if they trained together and deployed together and returned together. But that's probably why we all went our separate ways after Vietnam. And, some of the guys kept in touch with their buddies, but we didn't have like a list of everybody in the platoon and where they were and what they were doing.
Well, in October, when this event, what day is it again?
It starts on the 25th of October, which is a Sunday, which is, I think, the day the guys will start arriving. And Vietnam War History Day is October 27th, which is a Tuesday.
Okay.
And
where will the public be able to see this?
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'd like to invite the public. We'd like to invite all military veterans from all wars, and especially Vietnam veterans, to come to the Custom House Plaza Maritime Museum. It's going to start at 10 o'clock in the morning on October 27th. There's going to be a ceremony outside of the Maritime Museum in the plaza there. And then after the ceremony, we're going to screen a documentary that we made back at the 2004 reunion, which gives a lot of general information about the Vietnam War, and then there's interviews with the guys in the platoon that talk about our specific experiences there. And then after that, we're going to have a panel of guys from the platoon, and also we're happy to announce that Professor David Anderson, who is at Cal State University Monterey Bay, who is a professor of history and teaches a course in Vietnam War, is going to be a member of the panel. So he'll be like our expert to answer questions that the guys don't know the answers to.
Okay, all right. So, and it's open to the...
It's free and open to the public, and we invite everybody to attend.
Well, it sounds like a good opportunity for people, especially the younger generations that don't have a grasp of what the Vietnam experience was like, to actually to see it firsthand by talking with people who were there. So it's kind of a living history exhibit. I hate to say it like that. It makes you guys sound old.
Well, we are starting to get up there now. We're the senior class now.
So, okay. Well, on to let's talk about you a little bit.
Okay.
So you were not a draftee, correct?
That is correct. I had a plan for dodging the war, and my plan was going into the Army. Now,
kind of ironic.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had dropped out of college. I had done a year and a half of college, and I decided that college wasn't for me. And in 1967, as soon as you dropped out of college, you lost your college deferment, and you became 1A and you were draft bait. And it was only a matter of time, probably weeks, before you would be drafted. And draftees were generally put in the infantry and sent to Vietnam.
Well, on that, I have a question about that. And it's a question that I've always had, and I never, I don't know, I guess I never thought to sit and look it up. If you were in college and you had that college deferment in order to not be drafted, was that just long enough to get a bachelor's degree or master's degree, or could you keep signing up for classes as long as you had money and stay out of the war?
Yes, that's what my older brother did. He went all the way and got his PhD in chemistry at the University of Notre Dame, and he was a very smart guy, so he kept on getting scholarships, and he didn't have to reach too deeply into his pocket. And then just before he got his PhD, he got married and had a kid, and that gave him a deferment. So yes, as long as you were in college and working toward a degree, you were deferred.
Okay, I believe I'd have me a PhD too then, if that was my plan to dodge the war. So.
But anyway, at the time, if you were drafted, it was a 2-year commitment. If you joined, you could join for 3 years and fulfill your obligation in that 3-year commitment. And the Army had a deal at the time. If you qualified, you could choose your MOS, and the Army would absolutely positively guarantee your MOS. And guess what I chose? What we're doing right now. I wanted to be
broadcast journalist?
Yeah.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah, that's my sister MOS when I was in the military.
Okay, so that was my plan. I wanted to be like Robin Williams in Good Morning Vietnam.
Adrian Cronauer and Pat Sajak. Yeah.
So that was my plan for dodging the war. The problem came about when I got my first paycheck. My first paycheck was $62 as a private E0, in basic training. And I had a girl back home that I wanted to marry. And I just couldn't do it on $62 a month. It was just impossible. And when you come into the Army and you're in basic training, you take all these various tests, and one of the tests was the officer qualification test. So I scored well on that, and they took us aside and said, "You guys if you'd like, you can apply for OCS. So I applied for OCS, and I wrote my girlfriend back home, and I said, you know, we're going to get married because I'm going to become an officer. Now, in order for me to apply for OCS, I had to waive the promise that the Army gave me of sending me to radio school. So reluctantly, I waived it, and I, decided to go to OCS. So I took basic training at Fort Benning, then I came out here to Fort Ord. Now, my girlfriend was in New York. I was hoping they were going to send me to Fort Dix. Because if I went to Fort Dix, I could go home on the weekend and see my girlfriend. And it's been 8 weeks, and we're writing, I wrote her every day.
It's funny how these things never quite work out, do they?
They sent me, I didn't want to come out to California. I thought it was horrible. I couldn't go home on a 3-day pass. It was just, I was stuck here. And they took us right from basic training, marched us to the airport, and we got on planes, and they flew us into Oakland, and suddenly I'm in AIT at Fort Ord. And it was another 8 weeks. Well, just as I was accepted to OCS and started that process, I got the proverbial Dear John letter.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Now, I was trained as an infantryman, so if I decided not to go to OCS, I would be given the 30-day leave or 2-week leave, and then I would get my orders for Vietnam. So I decided to go to OCS, and they said, you wear prescription lenses, and you're not qualified for combat arms because your eyesight is too bad. And I thought, well, that makes sense. You don't want a combat leader losing his glasses and not being able to see anything. So I had orders in my hand for Ordnance OCS. I was going to go to Maryland. I guess it's Fort Halbert, one of those forts in Maryland. And they waived my orders, and they sent me to the hospital for a reevaluation. The only thing they did was examine my eyes. The Army had changed their guidelines, and suddenly I was qualified for combat arms. So
it's funny how that works out.
They said, armor's full, the artillery or infantry? And I said, well, I'll take artillery. And I figured those guys are back in the rear area with the big guns. And they called me in the next day to officer procurement. And they said, do you still want to be an officer? I said, well, yeah, I guess. They said, well, artillery just filled up, so it's infantry for you. So I went to infantry OCS at Fort Benning. I started in August of '67. And a little bit after I had started, the Paris peace talks had begun. And the war had been going on for 4 or 5 years already. I mean, in a big way. And I thought, well, OCS is 6 months. Maybe war will be over by the time I graduate. About halfway through OCS, we got to fill out dream sheets. And I applied for every school the Army had, figuring that would stall it. Maybe the war would be over. I had no idea, that the war was going to go on for another 6 or 7 years. I had no idea. So they gave me Ranger School. And barely made it through Ranger School, but I did make it, and I did get the tab. And then after that, they sent me back to Fort Ord, and I was at the AIT committee group, the patrolling out at Mud Hen Lake out at Fort Ord. They had the patrolling committee, and we taught patrolling. And, it was a little bit, I think, virgins teaching other virgins about sex, because I had never been on a combat patrol, and yet I was teaching patrolling techniques. Now, I had a lot of that in, infantry OCS and Ranger School, but never really in real life.
All right. Okay. Well, we're going to go to a break right now,
Okay.
and we're gonna switch guests real quick. It's something I don't normally do, but we're gonna go to Brian Hughes, and then and what we'll do is we'll finish up your interview after that one.
Okay.
We'll see you in a couple minutes. So back to you, Paul. We got down to I think Ranger School, and then off to the 9th Infantry Division, Vietnam. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot more time for your interview, but tell us in a nutshell, Vietnam. I mean, we get it in a nutshell most of the time, but what do you think the most influential piece of going to Vietnam and fighting in that conflict was for you for the rest of your life?
That's a good question. In officer candidate school, they taught us that the most important thing was the mission. And then right after the mission came the welfare of the men. Now, to me, that was always kind of a chicken and egg thing. I mean, you couldn't accomplish the mission unless the men were well cared for. And
yeah, that's true.
What I did was I made that my priority in Vietnam. I didn't do anything foolish. I didn't foolishly risk anybody's life. The one thing that I am most proud of in Vietnam is that while I was the platoon leader of the 2nd Platoon of Alpha Company, 2nd and 39th Infantry, from January until May, not one American boy was killed. So I didn't have to write that letter.
That's amazing.
I know. I was very lucky. There were many that were wounded, but all of them made it. We did lose a Tiger Scout, a Vietnamese Tiger Scout who was with our platoon. I don't know if you know about the Tiger Scout program.
Yeah, well, I do. Unfortunately, I don't think we have the time to go into it.
Can I give a website?
Yes, absolutely.
I am also a documentary filmmaker. I didn't know whether you knew that or not.
I did not know that.
Okay, because the info packet has, if I would have known, I would have brought a copy of the DVD for you. I made a documentary about our reunion in 2004.
Okay.
And if people would like to see this, they can see it on our YouTube channel. And this is how to get there. You go to www.youtube.com/longtimers. And that will take you to our YouTube channel, and you'll find the Alpha Company Reunion playlist there, and you can see the documentary.
Okay, all right. Well, thanks, Paul. I'm going to put it up on the blog site and on the iTunes. Where we can link in to see and invite the public to the memorial on the 25th.
The 27th,
or 27th,
October 27th, 10 a.m., Custom House Plaza. Please be there.
All right. Thanks. See you next week. Have a good one. That's close.
All right. Great.
We were running out of time right there at the end.
That's cool.
Sorry about that.
Cool.
I didn't think he was going to take that long. He said it was going to take 15 minutes, and he had to go.
I know that you often have more than one guest, so I was kind of prepared for that mentally. So no problem. I enjoyed it.